I'm bored and y'all wanted me to check out this Jesterbells Supergirl video, so let's do it. All right, so it's been about a month, maybe more, since I've actually watched a Jesterbell video. I haven't really been checking her channel very much, but y'all kept saying check out her Supergirl video. This is from about a week ago when the trailer came out, and like I said, I want to try and watch as many of these as possible, so we're just going to start reacting to it to see where this goes. The title of it is Supergirl Looks, and in all caps, absolutely awful, and rant. I love the fact that it's going to be a rant because I can't wait to hear what it is that she has to say. I'm pretty sure it's going to be dumb, and that always makes me laugh, so let's watch the video.
Hello everyone, female Frodo Baggins here, and can you guess my reaction to the latest Supergirl trailer?
Well, you hated it because you hate everything. Did I get it right? Am I right? I mean, the title of the video is Rant, so unless you're doing a positive rant, I'm just going to assume, because of context clues, that you didn't like it. Let's see.
Can you guess my reaction to James Gunn's Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 4, Supergirl trailer? I bet you can't.
Okay, first of all, James Gunn did not direct the movie. This concept that James Gunn shadow directed Supergirl is brain rot, dumb shit. And the reason why is because he is the head of DC Studios. If he wanted to direct Supergirl, he would have just directed it. Doesn't make any sense that James Gunn would turn down the chance to do a movie that he wanted to do, to be out on the red carpet, talking about the story, talking about his inspiration, all those things. We know how James Gunn is. So it doesn't make any fucking sense that James Gunn would shadow direct a movie when he could have just directed it himself. So calling this Guardians of the Galaxy 4, I mean, again, it's just brain rot. I don't really have a better term for it. Rage bait, ignorance? I don't know. One of those things.
I bet that my feelings on James Gunn haven't been made clear.
Which is why whenever people like Jesterbell or any of these folks make videos about movies that are directed or written or starring someone they don't like, and they are so clearly not interested in this person, whoever it could be, James Gunn, Kathleen Kennedy, Kevin Feige, Russo brothers, whoever, just pick some, Pedro Pascal, anybody they hate, right? There's the bias is so massive and so large, so big. Okay, it's such a big bias. The way that exists in this moment means that there's no way you're going to give a fair criticism of this trailer or of this movie, this project, whatever you want to call it. The ability to be fair about it left months ago. So just know, the minute someone establishes that they don't like someone for whatever reason, and then they're going to review a project, not by that person, but they are putting blame on the person, James Gunn here, you know it's going to be just angry, dumb shit. It just is. There's no way to make an unbiased review when you already have a chip on your shoulder about something.
I bet that people really woke up this morning and thought, wow, it's a really big mystery as to how Jesterbell female Frodo Baggins feels about this Supergirl movie that's coming out. Spoilers. I hate everything about this trailer, this concept, what James Gunn is doing, the situation that comic book media is in, and the situation of the movie industry as a whole, releasing this. Because listen, it is not good right now, guys.
Okay, so first of all, again, James Gunn didn't direct it. I'm not going to keep correcting her on that. You guys get it. She's just stupid. She's either stupid or she's trying to create a narrative. One or the other. James Gunn didn't direct it. So any concept, story, etc. First of all, it comes from a comic book that Tom King wrote. Tom King is involved in the DCU. He's one of the people involved with it. So it would be his story being adapted by another writer and a director. Neither of them are James Gunn. Neither of them. So I don't really understand how you can even pretend to have good faith when you start out your video admitting that you are blaming a person for all of the problems with this movie, which we haven't seen the movie yet. So you're blaming a person who didn't do any of the stuff that you're blaming the issues with on. How are we supposed to take that in good faith? How are we supposed to even process that? You know what I mean? It doesn't make a lot of sense.
This is the darkest moments of the movie industry ever, where the old one is collapsing at this point. WB might get sold to Netflix. They might close that deal in some months. Disney recently just made $1 billion deal with OpenAI to license their characters out to OpenAI so that now people can make clips with Mickey Mouse and Elsa and Captain America, AI regurgitated slop.
Can we stay on topic? Your video is about Supergirl. I don't mind, like, if you want to talk about other DCU stuff, but you're talking about stuff that's not even related to Supergirl. Who gives a fuck? I don't care what you think about this stuff. I want to hear what you have to say about Supergirl. That's why I clicked on the video. I don't give a fuck about your opinion about some OpenAI shit. Save that for another video.
Clips. The industry has just given up. Movie theaters might not exist in the future, and it is the darkest time for us movie fans. But in the midst of all of that...
Well, you made a video where you talked about how 2025... like it was a dumpster fire, whatever fucking brain rot, nerdrotic parroting shit you did. You talked about how bad everything was. You're not a fan of movie theaters or movies because you don't want them to succeed. You want stuff to fail. That's what your channel's about. Your channel is literally the foundation, the framework, the blueprint of what you fucking do on YouTube is you make content in hopes to make money off of outrage and to possibly be right about something being a massive failure, so then you can make more videos about how much of a failure it is. You are not a fan of movies. You're not an ally to movie theaters. You're none of those things. So all of this like fake virtue signaling stuff, it rings hollow to me and anybody else that's watched even a handful of your videos. It's all the same stuff.
My opinion is always that the main problem of why people don't go to movies anymore is the bad movies. We wouldn't be able to be on YouTube and have so many channels cover bad movies. I always say the problem is...
because you're focused on bad movies. You and every other channel like yours hyper fixates. It's like a baby screaming for a bottle or a pacifier. You hyper fixate on movies that you think are going to be bad. There were a lot of movies that came out this year that are good movies, and you ignored a big chunk of them. If I went to your video right now and I correlated the release of movies that are well regarded and the content you were putting out during that time, would it match up? Would I be able to see that you covered movies that were good movies and that you contributed to the success of movie theaters? Or will I find that 80-90% of your content is detrimental to movie theaters by hyperfixating on stuff that you consider to be bad? Which one of those things would I find if I went to your channel right now? The answer is outrage content, stuff that is detrimental to movie theaters. And you can pretend that you care about quality movies, but even when a movie is well received by a chunk of the fan base, you still shit on it. You're still going to talk shit about it. You're still going to try and make it look bad to try and make money off of YouTube. You are a leech on the movie industry. You're a leech. You're attached to the movie industry to suck it dry because that is how you, I get. I don't know if you do this for a living anymore. I think you said you like make indie movies or something. I have no fucking clue. But you do obviously want to gain at least clout out of this with the kind of videos you make and the stuff you say. You made a post the other day about, I think it was Nerdrotic or something on your channel. So clearly, that's what you're trying to be. So don't miss me with all this shit about you caring about movie theaters and the health of the industry. None of that is true. You are a liar. You're a liar. I don't have to read your mind. I can just look at your behavior, look at the pattern of your channel. That's just it. It's right there in front of us. You don't care. You focus on movies that you either think are going to be bad or celebrate when a movie doesn't perform well. That's what you do. Bad movies
mean less people want to go to the theater. When less people go to the theater, that means prices raise and they have to play more commercials to try to compensate for the lost revenue. When that happens, even less people want to go to the theaters. Okay. Point of all of this is, it's hard to be in this position where I'm devastated at the potential of just losing theaters altogether, and to look at the 2025 slate, the trailer, the first, well, not the first, but one of the first big trailers for 2025 movies to come out, and it's more sludge.
2025 movies? What? Hold on.
Together, and to look at the 2025 slate, the trailer, the first, well, not the first, but one of...
You can't even get the year right. 2025 slate? You mean 2026? We're in 2025 right now. You're talking about next year's movie lineup. And this is a script? So you wrote this and didn't realize it was wrong when you wrote it? All right, fam, let's go.
The first big trailers for 2025 movies to come out. And
And you said it wrong like multiple times. That's crazy.
it's more sludge. It's more stuff that I could never recommend.
What is sludge? I know what slop is. What is sludge? What does that mean? Sludge? Is that a new word? Are you trying to make it a new word? Is that a new buzzword in your community? I've never heard that. I've never heard a movie referred to as sludge before. Okay.
And people watching. It's another movie that has flop written all over it.
Oh, okay.
So let's get into the marketing behind James Gunn's Supergirl. I know that Craig Gillespie, who did do a very good movie with I, Tonya before, I know that he's technically the director of this movie, but...
No, he is the director of the movie. Not technically, he is. He is the director of the movie. And he's made good movies, which is why you're trying to pass the buck on to James Gunn, because you've tried to establish that James Gunn doesn't know what he's doing. It's a very, like, once you realize that's the narrative you're trying to paint, the rest of your arguments fall apart. And anybody watching your content can see that. If you have even half of a brain cell, you would know that the reason why she's saying technically a director is she wants to create a narrative. Narratives don't work for me. I deal in facts and I deal in logic. So all of these games you're playing, all of this conspiracy theory bullshit that you've got going on, it's just going to be dismantled. I'm not going to put up with it when I debunk these videos. I'm not going to do it.
Make no mistake, this is a James Gunn movie. It is
not.
James Gunn through and through, in the same way that all movies that come from Marvel are essentially just Kevin Feige projects.
That is not true. That is not true. Kevin Feige doesn't direct and write movies. Kevin Feige creates the stories for these longer elements of the MCU. That's what he does. And then he helps figure out where movies are going to go in the lineup. James Gunn is a writer and director, meaning that if James Gunn wanted to direct Supergirl, he would have directed Supergirl. Kevin Feige does not have that skill set. So your argument doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make sense.
James Gunn is just hiring yes men to make his projects. So let's talk about the marketing behind Supergirl.
I'm not going to let you get away with that. Show me the proof. That's a claim. Show me the evidence, because you haven't seen the movie yet. All you've seen is a trailer. So show me the evidence that James Gunn is hiring yes men to work for him. Give me some sort of like, is Craig Gillespie typically a yes man? Does he typically do what the studios tell him to do? Is that how he functions? Or is he an actual filmmaker that has his own vision and his own idea? I went back and I watched the trailer for I, Tonya, and I've gone back and watched other trailers like Cruella and stuff that he's directed. And his trailers, his vibe, it's very similar to Supergirl. It's very similar. If it weren't for the fact that we get copyright claimed, I would show them here. But you can go look at them. I, Tonya, Cruella, Supergirl, you can see the similarities of the vibe, of the aesthetic, of the tone in those projects in Supergirl. You can see it. So I don't know what you mean, yes man, doing what James Gunn wants to do. It's obviously a James Gunn movie. I don't know what that fucking means. I don't think you know what it means either.
Supergirl was already said by James Gunn to be like Guardians. Oh, what a surprise. That's all the guy can ever make. So they put out this poster and this little GIF.
By the way, that's all. I just gonna pause. I hate that I have to keep pausing this. James Gunn makes movies that aren't just space-based Guardians of the Galaxy movies. That's absolutely false. It is so false that I can't believe they keep saying it. That's how false it is. It's so blatantly wrong that I can't believe they're saying it. It just is. Let's run this back.
Let's talk about the marketing behind Supergirl. Supergirl was already said by James Gunn to be like Guardians. Oh, what a surprise. That's all the guy can ever make. So they put out this poster and this little GIF the other day advertising the teaser trailer. And the poster says, truth, justice, whatever. Wow. So edgy, James. You really, really got that edge there.
It's not James Gunn's movie. You sound fucking stupid. Even more stupid than you usually do. You and anyone else saying this. You sound really fucking stupid. On top of that, the marketing stuff is done by the marketing team. Meaning that the marketing team uses what they think is going to be best for the marketing of that movie in conjunction with the creative team behind the movie. That's how they do it. So the truth, justice, whatever, the whole edgy thing they're doing it because they're trying to establish that Supergirl is not a carbon copy of Superman. They want people to understand that this is not going to be a Superman movie where it's just a gender swap character. They want her to have her own personality and her own identity. And the advertising for it is giving us a little tease of what the movie is going to be like. And if you read the story from the comics, you would know that this kind of lines up with what happens in the story in the comics. I don't want to spoil it here. But, it makes total sense to me. So you're looking at this from the perspective of, I just want to shit on James Gunn and I will use every excuse I can to do it. It's so transparent. It's so fucking see-through. You might as well be the Invisible Woman.
Okay, before we get into it, before I go on a rant, okay, this is the problem with the premise of this movie.
No, just go on the rant, please. Just go on the rant.
It's advertising itself to being the cynical sister to the Superman movie. Like, it's supposed to be the answer to altruistic superheroes, that Supergirl is cynical and depressed and she's drinking, and I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. In the trailer, she says, he believes in the good of people and she believes in the truth, which is all people are just terrible and stuff like that. Here is the problem with that. Here's the problem with the tagline, truth, justice, whatever, is that if we were living in a time where we were getting a lot of altruistic characters, whether it was superheroes or just heroic characters in general, then yeah, it would make sense to do this movie. It would make sense to do a cynical take, a quote-unquote edgier take, at least edgier compared to the movies we've been given. But we never got the altruism first. James Gunn's Superman felt like he did not want to make the movie. He didn't want to do Superman, and I will never forget that.
This is subjective, okay? I want you guys to understand, when I debunk stuff, I typically try to stay away from opinions like, I didn't like the movie and that's it, right? Or I didn't like the soundtrack and whatnot. I'll talk shit about that if somebody's being a dick. But so this is subjective, right? So she says that I guess that James Gunn didn't want to make the movie. That's what it felt like. And she didn't see the positivity in the film and what they were trying to convey. That's on her. That's on her, because I can see the difference in Superman and how it's going to be different in the teaser for Supergirl. I can see it. And I'm somebody that wanted to see Supergirl from the moment she landed in the Superman movie, and I got to see that she's just one of these characters that feels a bit, unpredictable and not perfect, which I like. I like the idea of characters who are not perfect. Characters that feel like they need to take a journey to sort of complete themselves. That's what I wanted to see. And honestly, that's what a lot of the guys that in this circle ask for, is they want to see a character who has to go through the process, that needs to start in the bottom and make it to the top, right? That's what Supergirl is giving us. A character that is starting on the messier side of their life, dealing with the deep depression, doing things that aren't perfect, things that aren't good for her, and she's starting there. So hopefully, as we get to know her in the DCU and the universe expands, she will have a journey. She'll grow some. That's what we want. You don't want her to come out being perfect when you and other people like you have criticized women in movies for being perfect, being Mary Sue's. Like, you've done that. So now you have a character that's on the other side of that, someone who is offering you a different perspective, something that we haven't really seen before, and you're still attacking it. This is what I'm talking about when I say that there's no metric that makes sense with the criticism they give. The metric is, I just want to complain about something regardless of what it is I've said in the past. That's what it is. This is a reach.
Quote before he signed on to it that said that Superman was not a character that enticed him. Crypto was what he finally got to get himself to work on the project, because that's what they want him to do. The Superman movie is like a speed run where there's barely any time to breathe. It never wants to stay with anything. Superman gets, put in prison early on in the film so that James Gunn can play around with characters like Mr. Terrific and Guy Gardner that he actually wants to play around with and do more silly antics and jokes that were considered edgy and dirty for a Marvel movie back in 2014 because James Gunn never left Guardians of the Galaxy.
Who cares? Who cares? It's his prerogative. He was brought on to make the movie. He decided he wanted to show a little bit of love to some side characters. Who cares in the big scheme of things? This seems like a completely pointless criticism. Was the movie bad because of that? Because it sounds like you don't really like Superman as a character. So if you didn't like Superman as a character, why do you care that he took a break on Superman in the second act to give the other characters a little bit of, breathing room in the film? Why do you care? I would ask you, if I were speaking directly to Jesterbell, I would say, did you not like the side characters? Was there no reason to do what they did with them? Is that the problem? Or is it just you going, I did like the side characters, but I want to find something to complain about, so I'm going to complain that he focused on them and put locked Superman up, a character that's supposed to be so powerful, he could do anything, took the opportunity when he could to put Superman in sort of a crisis mode, that you believe there was no actual reason to do that, and the movie would have been better off ignoring all the supporting characters. That's a fundamental misunderstanding of like film to me. It's just a fundamental misunderstanding, especially in the space we're in with superhero movies. But I'll let her cook a little bit more, even though the food is in the kitchen burning already.
It was so clear he did not want to actually do Superman. And Superman's character development is so shallow in the movie. It just does not feel actually sincere. It felt like James Gunn was just trying to create an answer for
this is all
Zack
subjective.
Snyder
I don't
and say,
care
okay,
about
I
this.
made a hopeful Superman. He spent barely any time on that.
I don't care. This stuff doesn't bother me because it's subjective. So I don't really care too much about it. But I do wish that she would sort of get back on track and talk about Supergirl. Because I've heard all this stuff about Superman from her before. I've watched videos from her where she talked about Superman. She's just repeating the same stuff she said before. It's actually unnecessary, to be honest. But let's continue.
Character, there is not a lot of depth in the movie. He just did not want to do Superman. So for me, he didn't even do Truth, Justice, and the American Way. He would never say that. So to me, to now say, oh, this is the time where we're doing the alternate to that. We're doing the cynical version of Superman. We're doing the one that is grungy and edgy, and the trailer opens with a dog peeing on something. Ooh, isn't this gross and edgy? Like, it's like you never did the altruism and the wholesomeness of Superman in the first place.
So does that mean that Supergirl's responsible for that? Say, for example, I listened to that criticism you're giving, right? That you don't feel that Superman was this pinnacle of hope and justice and goodness, right? Does that mean that now Supergirl bears the burden on that it falls on her shoulders? That she's supposed to be the one to do that? Is that the responsibility falls on her? Or is she allowed to be whatever character she needs to be in the story that she's in? Which one is it? This is what bugs me. Why would Supergirl, if we're looking at this from the lens of like these are individual films and they're supposed to have a different vision and a different perspective, right? Why would Supergirl have to take the burden of fixing problems that you had with Superman? Why would that be her responsibility in her film? What would be the reason for that? That doesn't make any sense. Secondly, it's not James Gunn's movie. So the issues you had with Superman are independent of Supergirl. It doesn't matter. It's not the same writer or director. And this is why I know you're crafting a narrative, because you're comparing it to Superman in a way to make it seem like James Gunn is the one who's responsible for any shortcomings that might happen to Supergirl. And that's ridiculous.
He could not help himself with the first Superman, whether he's joking about Superman harems or Guy Gardner's body count. He could not let go of that part of himself for that movie. We never got the wholesome, altruistic Superman movie. And so when we go to Supergirl, it's like, this actually is not the answer. This is just like, there was a little curtain over the Superman movie, and now the curtain's off. That's what it is. They're not really opposite takes. It's just Supergirl is the movie that James Gunn actually wants to produce, whereas Superman, he was barely masking himself.
He could have gone and made Supergirl if he wanted. It's his studio. This is why this argument falls apart. Why would he choose not to do the one that he wants to do? He could have done anything he wanted. It's his decision. So this argument, the minute you realize that James Gunn does have total control over this kind of thing, it doesn't make sense that he wouldn't take the project that he wants to do. So I don't really understand what the issue is with this. I don't get it.
That's the only difference here. So yeah, truth, justice, whatever, that doesn't work when you didn't actually go with truth, justice, and the American way in the...
Well, Supergirl is not a gender swap Superman telling Superman's story. Again, that's not her responsibility. Supergirl is saying truth, justice, whatever. Superman's not saying that, and she's not speaking for Superman. So it doesn't matter. The point you're making doesn't matter. It doesn't mean anything.
First movie. So, but then, oh my goodness, that GIF literally shows Supergirl wearing the same headphones and Walkman as Star-Lord. I'm not making this up. It's the same, orange headphones and Walkman that are nostalgia from the 80s, because who uses cord headphones anymore? We're getting that again. He is making no attempt to even mask that this.
It's not his movie. If you got an issue with that, take it up with Gillespie. Take it up with Gillespie. It's a easily recognizable type of headphones that were used in the 80s. She's listening to an 80s song, or we're listening to an 80s song, because again, it's a trailer. We're listening to an 80s song, and that's used in the promotional advertising for the film in that one image. That's the time we see it. Take it up with the director.
This is just a copy of Guardians of the Galaxy. Supergirl is literally an insert for Star-Lord all over again. And then we get to the trailer itself. And I was over it. I was over it when it started.
So then why even, what are we doing? What are we doing? If you were over it the minute it started, then what conversation are we having? Turn it off and don't talk about it. It's really that simple. If you believe James Gunn made it, you don't like James Gunn, and you didn't like the trailer the minute you turned it on, what are we doing? What are we doing, fam? Turn it off. That's what I'm going to say. That's my new thing. If you don't like it, turn it off. Nobody is forcing you to watch entertainment. Nobody is tying you in a chair and holding your eyes open like Clockwork Orange and forcing you to watch Supergirl trailers. Forcing you to watch James Gunn stuff. Nobody is doing that. So spare me with the theatrics.
If you want to get me to see a movie, a CGI dog, a badly CGI dog peeing on something is not gonna make me want to go see it. But that's the thing about the trailer, is the trailer looked like pee. It's like that is the first image they put in your mind when it starts, and of course they have the 80s retro music with.
The trailer looked like pee? What the fuck? What does that even mean? Okay. Also, the retro 80s music, James Gunn is not the only person that can do that. That's used a lot in a lot of media. So I get requests for 80s music at the club. I'm a DJ for a living. I don't know if a lot of people know that. I have my own DJ business. I DJ for a living. I DJ 6 nights a week, and special events and stuff like that. And 80s music is still popular. People still ask for it and request it. Matter of fact, that particular song by Blondie is a highly requested song. Before the trailer even dropped, I just did an event where somebody requested that song twice in the same night. So it's a popular song.
See it. But that's the thing about the trailer, is the trailer looked like pee. It's like that is the first image they put in your mind when it starts, and of course they have the 80s retro music with Blondie, of course, because this is just Guardians of the Galaxy.
Are you into water sports or something? You want to tell us something?
See, all over again. And you go to space locations that are very much Guardians of the Galaxy.
Oh no, space locations. It must be Guardians of the Galaxy. Even though there's no team here, it's not a team movie. It's Supergirl, and without spoiling too much of the story, like one other person. It's not a team movie. I don't know where you're getting that from. And again, superheroes in space, James Gunn doesn't own that. That is not a James Gunn unique thing. When they made Infinity War an Endgame and they had Guardians of the Galaxy in that movie, or when any of our characters went to space, did that make it a James Gunn movie? Because James Gunn was directing for Marvel at that time. Was that his movie? Did he do that? Or was it the Russo brothers? I can't tell, because you seem to have the conspiracy theory that James Gunn shadow directs stuff. So, I mean, without any proof whatsoever. So, I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe James Gunn directed Infinity War and Endgame. I have no clue.
See, and it's embarrassing that is all James Gunn knows how to do. But yeah, you set the tone here, and it's just everything has just a yellow pee filter over it, and there's drinking and depression.
Like, we just watched a clip that didn't have a quote-unquote yellow pee filter. Keep your fetish to yourself. Keep your fetish to yourself. I don't want to hear any more about that.
And cynicism, and it's like, yeah, that's exactly what audiences want to see today. Once again, if this was an answer to overly optimistic superhero movies, then that would be one thing, but it's not.
Why does it have to be? Why does it have to be that? Maybe this is just the movie that they wanted to make. what is the standard where a movie has to be something for a reason? Right? So the foundation here that you're arguing from is that Supergirl has to represent something that is outside of the film. That Supergirl has to make up for whatever Superman did wrong. That Supergirl is supposed to be, I don't know, good because Superman was supposed to be good and you didn't think he was good, so now Supergirl has to bear that responsibility. That's what's supposed to happen. That James Gunn can only make space movies even though it's not a James Gunn movie. None of these things are addressing the fact that this is the movie that they wanted to make. Maybe this is what they wanted to make. You're making a bunch of excuses. I don't understand how these excuses correlate to what the movie is. This is one of the things that we talked about. And Birdman has mentioned it. I've mentioned it on live streams. Stop judging these projects on what they aren't. You're judging it on what it isn't. And the reason why you're doing that is because you haven't seen it. You haven't seen the movie. You've only seen the trailer. So the way to deconstruct what you do here, just pay attention, is you don't know enough about the movie. So what you've done is you have created a narrative that the movie is just Guardians of the Galaxy. You've created this narrative, and then you work backwards from that narrative. It's just like Guardians of the Galaxy. It must be a James Gunn movie. Look at the marketing. Look at the 80s music. This is just a way for you to craft a narrative and be very lazy about any criticism. Address the actual the closest thing you've gotten to addressing the trailer, oddly enough, is the criticism about P. That's the closest you've got to actually addressing the trailer. Everything else has been problems outside of the trailer that you've created to craft your narrative. I would love for you to get back to the actual trailer and talk about the merits of the trailer instead of all this other stuff.
Already had so many cynical characters. We've already had so many superhero movies that don't understand what a hero is and that where the heroes are actually selfish. It's not interesting to see another one. It's not interesting to see a Supergirl who has this incredible power and is out as one of the last Kryptonians is out there wasting her life away drinking and getting into fights.
Okay. There's a subjective portion of that I don't care about, like her talking about cynical heroes. I don't care that you don't want to see that. I like it, so I don't care that you don't like it. And for every person, like that's why those arguments don't hold up, right? Like you could say, oh, I didn't like that it was a cynical movie because I don't want characters that act that way. And then I could say, well, I do like the movie and I do like characters that act that way. And then we get nowhere. That's why I don't argue subjective takes. It's just not important. However, I will say, without spoiling too much of the book, because I do recommend, either before or after the movie, going out and reading the actual stories from the comics, the miniseries, I would recommend that. There's a reason why she's doing what she's doing. And it has a lot to do with her emotional and mental state and things she's dealing with. And I'm sure they're going to cover that in the movie. It would be almost impossible to tell that story without covering that. To act like somebody who witnesses the destruction of their entire planet and presumably everybody on that planet, and to go, they shouldn't be suffering from depression, they should be out just being heroic, is quite possibly one of the most unsympathetic and a lack of empathy, like at a level that I can't even comprehend, where you think that this person's personal feelings, we're talking about Supergirl here, that Supergirl's personal feelings and what she's going through shouldn't be relevant because you don't want to see it, because she should just be out doing things like Superman. I mean, again, like subjective stuff, maybe you don't want to see it. I'm assuming that's what you're saying here. But for me, I think it would be problematic if superhero movies were just focused on such a narrow point of view, right? Superheroes have to be virtuous. They have to be perfect. They have to do the best things possible and never, ever show any signs of weakness. And that is what a superhero movie should be. I think that is a really dumb, naive, and ignorant, juvenile way. Juvenile is a good word. Juvenile way to view movies. I think it's an immature way to view movies. And that really does cut to the core of the kind of content that Jesterbell makes and so many of these people make. It doesn't matter how old they are. The way they view this kind of media is at a level of illiteracy that comes across as juvenile. And I'm assuming as we go through this video, we're just going to get more of that. Because we're where are we at here? Like about halfway through the video at this point, and I really haven't seen or heard anything super objective about problems with this because, again, her entire argument is predicated on a bunch of just false information.
It's not enticing, and it's like we've seen it a million times over now. But yeah, it looked awful, and it's just like James Gunn cannot make anything new. He cannot escape that one movie he made in 2014 with the 80s retro music and a space setting that was trying to be the edgy answer to the other Marvel movies. And that's the problem is James Gunn's version of edgy is what it was to be edgy compared to a Marvel movie back in 2014 because he's never evolved since then.
You see what I was saying a minute ago about like built on false information? Continuing to critique this movie like it's James Gunn's movie is extremely duplicitous. Like it's a lie. It's bad faith and it's dishonesty at a level where like, how do I even process and correct any of the comments you're making when your entire argument is established on a lie? How do I, like, this is where, like, people told me to watch this, and I understand why. Like, you want me to sort of really push back against some of the things she's saying. Again, the subjective stuff I don't really care about. But every statement she's making goes back to James Gunn didn't write and direct this movie. So my arguments against that are simply, he didn't write and direct the movie. But let's continue.
Because, you know, when Guardians of the Galaxy came out, it was different. It was a risk. It was edgy for a Marvel movie. Not edgy for a movie in general. It just went a little further with the dirty humor and the swearing than a regular Marvel movie, which were just for families, would be at the time. Guardians was still family movies, though. So it's like this guy is not nearly as edgy as he thinks he is. It's just, he's just stuck in over 10 years ago right now about what would have been considered a bit more cynical and edgy back then.
Again, she's talking about this like it's James Gunn's movie. There's no reason for me to push back against any of these individual statements because it's fabricated. It's tinfoil hat brain rot shit. So I can't even push back against the criticisms of Supergirl versus Guardians because James Gunn didn't direct Supergirl. He didn't write Supergirl.
So when I look at this film, I think, well, the visuals make me think of Black Adam because of all the yellow that you're treated to. I'm not interested in any of the premise because I've seen it a million times before with the humor and with the cynicism and all that from James Gunn. And it's like, it's so cliched at this point to do a cynical take on superheroes. And that's all James Gunn can do. But here's the thing. James Gunn is the biggest hack, I think, in Hollywood. I'm going to go that far because we keep talking that everything he makes is just Guardians of the Galaxy. He made Guardians of the Galaxy 3 times with 3 movies. Then he made the Suicide Squad, which was Guardians of the Galaxy.
It is not. That is just factually incorrect. There's nothing about that movie other than the fact it's about a team of characters that makes it like Guardians of the Galaxy. But continue.
Then he made Superman, which was a masked Guardians of the Galaxy. He even gave himself his own Guardians team so he wouldn't have to be stuck with Superman.
They never went to space. None of that happened. The team wasn't really a team. Think about it. There wasn't really a team. Like, they worked together because they had to a couple times, but they were never really a team. Because the Justice Gang and Superman were not together. So that's also not Guardians of the Galaxy. I think what you're doing is you're conflating a style with story. You're conflating what the style of a movie is versus what the story and the concept of a movie is. All directors, all writers that have any level of fame in the industry have a specific thing that they are kind of known for better or worse. James Gunn does have a style. I'm not going to argue that. But that doesn't mean that every movie he makes is Guardians of the Galaxy. Like, you could argue that you don't like the humor. You could argue that you don't like some of the interactions between characters, how he does those types of things. Like, you could argue about specific things like that. Again, it's a very juvenile blanket statement to just call everything that he does Guardians of the Galaxy. That doesn't tell me anything. Especially when there's no similarities in these projects. You're saying Superman is just like Suicide Squad, that is just like Guardians of the Galaxies 1, 2, and 3, when Guardians of the Galaxies 1, 2, and 3 were also very different movies? Okay.
Then he does Peacemaker, which is more Guardians of the Galaxy, and now he does Supergirl, which is more Guardians of the Galaxy.
Again, and I hate to have to say this over and over and over again, he did not write or direct Supergirl. This is just fucking dumb. just it's so fucking dumb. I hate that I have to keep saying it. I feel like this entire video is just nonsense. It's just absolute nonsense.
He got one big hit, which was the peak of his career back in 2014, and all he does is remake the movie, and nothing is hiding it. Everything. Supergirl is just Star-Lord. He's giving her back the Walkman and the headphones and the dance.
The Walkman and headphones was used in promotional stuff. I didn't see that anywhere in the trailer. Point out in the trailer where she's using Walkman and headphones. I don't think I saw that anywhere in the trailer. I could be wrong, but I don't think I saw it in the trailer.
Dancing just like Star-Lord. He's given us that 2014.
Okay, so now Walkman headphones and dancing equals Star-Lord. That's what the argument is. This is like Sherlock level investigation of the media.
And all he does is remake the movie, and nothing is hiding it. Everything. Supergirl is just Star-Lord. He's giving her back the Walkman and the headphones and the dancing just like Star-Lord. He's given us that, the alien characters in cheap-looking costumes because he thinks that they're goofy and silly. He's giving us all of that in a space adventure with the 80s nostalgia music all over again.
Man, this would be really rough if it was his movie. It's like, you might actually have a case here if it was his movie. Like, you might actually be onto something if it was his movie. But it's not. So let's continue.
So he can't make anything different, but here is the embarrassing thing about it. It would be one thing, and this would also just tell me he's just such a hack because he so obviously remakes the same movie over and over again. It's just Guardians, but Guardians of the Galaxy, the first movie wasn't even his idea. Now, this is something that...
Oh, God. Jesus fucking... So he can only do one thing, but the one thing that he does wasn't even his idea, but somehow he's managed to replicate somebody else's idea multiple times over movies and TV shows. Notice no mention of Creature Commandos. No mention of that. But he's managed to replicate it over movies and TV shows because of somebody else's genius with Guardians of the Galaxy. Okay.
Actually has been getting out there for a while now. It's been talked for years, and it was really shown a light on in the book about the reign of Marvel Studios. But James Gunn's narrative about the creation of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie has always been that, Nicole Perlman, she wrote the script, and then he completely rewrote the script into his vision and gave it, what Guardians of the Galaxy is.
I just want to make sure I'm hearing this correctly.
Creation of the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie has always been that, Nicole Perlman, she wrote the script, and then he completely rewrote the script into his vision and gave it, what Guardians of the Galaxy is with the music and the characters and all of that kind of stuff. But what has been said behind the scenes is what the actual truth happened is Nicole Perlman came up with the Guardians script, and she came up with the idea of Star-Lord having an attachment to the music that his mother gave him, having the Walkman and all of that kind of stuff. And that James Gunn essentially bullied her out of the project and took the...
Oh, she had to fight him to retain any credit. Okay. Hold on for a second. All right, so it's not exactly what she was saying, but let's get into this because I want to make sure I'm very clear on this. It seems like the issue was that she wanted to get writing credit with the WGA as co-screenwriter, right? In Nicole's script, everything is pretty different. The story is different. The character arcs are different. It's not about this. It's not about the same stuff, but that's how the WGA works. They like the first writers an awful lot. So it was an issue where she wanted to get credit on this. And when I checked and looked up stuff about being bullied out of the MCU or whatever, that's just not true. That seems like it's more rage bait. So when it says that she had to fight him to retain any credit, there is some truth to that because of the situation with the WGA, but it was more about the WGA than it was James Gunn. Because right here it says, he also seemed if the WGA wanted to give her a co-screenwriter credit. So it was an issue with the WGA and James, not her and James. Yeah, so it's like one of those things where half of the story is confirmed and the other half is like rage bait. So of course she's not going to be specific, I don't think, but we'll see if she actually mentions that the second part of this, the bullying thing or whatever, is not really confirmed. I want to see if she talks about that.
Out of the project and took the script and made some changes based on the characters that would be in it. Like Nova was taken out, Thanos was changed to another villain, but that she came up with a lot of the core ideas of what Guardians of the Galaxy was. And it was not as much of the overhaul as James Gunn would like you to think it is. But James Gunn...
Except the WGA wouldn't have given him a writing credit on that if he weren't the one that did the most work on it. Right? So she was going for co-screenwriter. That was actually what they were going to give her. So the issue isn't with James Gunn, it's with the WGA. It's the way the WGA functions. So that's the thing. That's why the framing of this is wrong, right? So I just want to explain it all into one little package so it makes sense here. So Nicole wrote the original script for Guardians of the Galaxy, which would have made her the screenwriter if they used her script with only minor changes in it. But James Gunn came in and rewrote the script. We know this is what happened, right? Because the WGA then shifted and gave him the screenwriting credit and gave Nicole a co-screenwriting credit. So they weren't saying that her work wasn't there. They just felt like her work had changed so much from the original one that she didn't get the full. She was co-screenwriter. She wasn't full screenwriter. So there is no, we know that. That's a fact. Unless you have an issue with the WGA. Then you can take it up with them. But there's no point in making up a lie that he bullied her out of the MCU. That's a stretch. You have no proof of that. It's all hearsay.
Took credit for the concept of Guardians of the Galaxy, essentially, even though it wasn't actually him. Now, that's been more talked about, that Guardians of the Galaxy was a script that James Gunn essentially bullied his way into taking credit for.
He didn't bully his way to taking credit for it. You keep saying that. There's no proof of that. How is that bullying anybody? That's the WGA. So he bullied her and he bullied the WGA? So James Gunn just has infinite powers. He can shadow direct films now. He can bully people through the WGA. Is he a mobster or something? I don't get it. I don't understand. It's clear you don't like him. I'm not a massive fan of him. I don't think he's the best director in the world or anything like that. I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying this conspiracy theory stuff is crazy. So he's just running Hollywood however he wants, bullying people out of the MCU, taking their writing credits through the WGA. The Writers Guild of America just lets him walk all over them? You have to be fucking kidding me.
Now, this part is not as confirmed. I've just heard through the grapevine that also Joss Whedon might have had a hand of what Guardians of the Galaxy was, because Joss Whedon was more involved in, terms of being a consultant with Marvel Studios movies back then.
What difference does that make? Who cares? Is there some reason for you bringing this up?
Now, that part is not confirmed. But I say all of that to say is all of this James Gunn copying himself is all over.
Well, he wouldn't be copying himself, right? So you've established that you think Nicole actually was the person that came up with everything with Guardians with the help of Joss Whedon? Okay. So you think that that's going on. So he wouldn't be copying himself. He would be copying people that gave him some really good work. Right? He would be copying their homework, essentially, not copying himself. So you're placing the blame on James, place it on Nicole. If he's copying her stuff, place it on her. Oh, no, that would be too easy because you hate James. So you have to paint him as the villain. I see how that works.
Concept that looks likely was not even his in the first place. A concept that he essentially stole from somebody else and bullied his way into getting credit for it.
Stole and bullied. Holy shit. Holy shit. He was hired by Marvel to come in and direct the movie, and he decided he wanted to change stuff in the script that he was hired to direct, which he is legally allowed to do, but he stole it somehow. And then because the WGA wanted to give him the screenwriting credit and Nicole the co-writing credit, he also bullied Nicole. This is, what the fuck are we doing? I know I asked that when I watched Jesterbell videos, but what the fuck are we doing? You have no proof of any of this stuff. We know what happened. You're just making things up. It's crazy.
So the peak of his career, Guardians of the Galaxy, this movie that ran off of 80s nostalgia and, grungy, edgy for a Marvel movie, heroes coming together in a ragtag team, that wasn't actually him. But embarrassingly, it's going to be 12 years since that movie when Supergirl comes out in 2026. That's all he can make anymore.
Yeah, it would be crazy if he was actually making Supergirl. Yeah, that would be pretty crazy. But he's not. It's not his movie.
And that's why I call this guy just the biggest hack in Hollywood, because I've never seen.
So you think that makes him the biggest hack in Hollywood? I mean, what is your knowledge of Hollywood? Is that it? It begins and ends with Marvel and DC? Is that your knowledge of Hollywood? Because you didn't mention any of the other movies he made except for the ones attached to Marvel and DC. He's made other things. You haven't mentioned any of them, and you left out Creature Commandos, right? You left that one out strategically, probably, because that was a little bit rougher to try and make it sound like it's Guardians of the Galaxy, right? Let's continue.
A guy get this much success off of remaking the same movie over and over again when it's off of a movie that apparently was not even his idea in the first place. This whole Walkman superhero, edgy, cynical, dancing.
You mad, sis? You mad? You upset? You gonna cry? Are you gonna cry? You need a little alone time? That somebody's successful in the industry? Maybe you should. Is there like a little crying room in your house where you can go and like sit down and have a good one while you're thinking about how successful James Gunn is? I don't know. Get a box of tissues, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you.
His music, it wasn't even him in the first place, but he just keeps replaying that hit over and over again. Maybe the guy knows he's a hack. Maybe he knows that it's not long for him. He's just making what he wants to make until he's inevitably out of there. But that's where we're at now. So back to the Supergirl trailer. Yeah, it's...
But we spent 70% of this video talking about James Gunn's career and trying to like basically make it seem like he stumbled into success and sort of like smear him when he didn't make Supergirl. So this is what this is an anti-James Gunn video wrapped up with a nice bow in Supergirl. So Supergirl was to get you to click onto the video for her to spend maybe 5 or 6 minutes of the video actually talking about Supergirl, and the rest of it is just anti-James Gunn masturbation. That's all it is. But let's see. She's got, 3 minutes left in the video. Maybe she'll say something about Supergirl that doesn't directly connect to just blaming James Gunn. So I have some sort of like objective thing to talk about.
Like, AI is taking over Hollywood, and it's unfortunate. I disagree that AI is going to be the magic people think that it is.
Let's jump back. Didn't you say let's jump back to Supergirl and then you start talking about AI? Let's see if we can follow you here.
First place, but he just keeps replaying that hit over and over again.
I don't know.
Maybe the guy knows he's a hack. Maybe he knows that it's not long for him. He's just making what he wants to make until he's inevitably out of there. But that's where we're at now. So back to the Supergirl trailer. Yeah, it's like, AI is taking over Hollywood, and it's unfortunate. I disagree that AI is going to be the magic people think that it is, and that it's going to make, create our heart's desire.
Am I stroking out? Did she... Back to Supergirl, AI. What? What does that have to do with Supergirl? What does AI have to do with the Supergirl trailer? Fam, I don't know.
I completely disagree with that. But it's like Hollywood has wanted it to be that way for so long. It's like AI can only ever regurgitate things from the past, but that's already what Hollywood is doing. This movie would have looked like,
This trailer. It is not the movie. It is the trailer. You need to understand that words matter. They mean something. You need to be, you misspoke many, many times in this video. Many times. When you're writing your script, a little bit of editing would help. Maybe, possibly. You're chastising him for being a hack, and then you can't even write a short script for a YouTube video without a bunch of errors in it. So let's continue and see if you can get back to Supergirl, the trailer, not the movie.
Dated 5 years ago. Like, we're already getting a lot of this stuff thanks to the prominence of Guardians of the Galaxy. And never forget that James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy had major influences on the kinds of humor that would be used in superhero.
So not back to Supergirl, back to James Gunn and Guardians of the Galaxy. So she said, let's go back to Supergirl. AI, nostalgia bait, James Gunn. We're back to where we were a minute ago.
Superhero movies, the kinds of music, like it's rare to get a superhero film that doesn't have like a nostalgic pop song or the Marvel humor. But and then that makes its way to other movies as well, as they became very influenced by comic book movies. So it's
other movies. Are we talking about Supergirl or are we talking about other movies? Because I thought we were getting back to Supergirl. It's hard for me to stay on track here. I'm sorry. Maybe I'm having some sort of like episode. I don't know.
Like we've seen it all before, but I'm just not looking forward to seeing Guardians of the Galaxy 6 from this movie.
So how did we get to 6? Didn't you call it Guardians of the Galaxy 4 earlier? Is math hard? Are you having a tough time? Tough time? How do we jump up to?
And it just does not, like, this is the worst that it could possibly drum up. Is I think there's going to be perhaps an apathy towards this movie because it's what we've seen over and over again, and it's not actually an answer to a positive, optimistic superhero movie. Because
does it have to be? Again, does it have to be? I don't know why that's the criteria. Like, when did that become the criteria for all superhero movies? I'm not sure. I'm not sure why that's the standard for this film. I'm confused.
James Gunn didn't even want to really work on Superman. He wanted to fill it up with his other Guardians of the Galaxy like characters.
More James Gunn, like, you know what I mean? It's like, we're still talking about James Gunn. Talk about Supergirl. Talk about the trailer. Anything. Talk about Lobo. Talk about Krim. Talk about anything. The spaceship. Something. Can we please? Like, that's what this video is supposed to be.
Over and over again, and it's not actually an answer to a positive, optimistic superhero movie because James Gunn didn't even want to really work on Superman. He wanted to fill it up with his other Guardians of the Galaxy like characters. Now, mask off, he doesn't have to pretend anymore with Superman. Now he can just make what he wants with Supergirl. So it's unfortunate. I don't want theaters to die. That is my worst fear, perhaps coming alive right now. But when I look at a movie like this, and it's supposed to be one of the big...
Are we got, like, again, we've got like 1 minute left. 1 minute. Give me anything substantial. Guys, you have to understand, this is so frustrating. I enjoy debunking stuff, but this is awful. The reason why is the only thing that I can debunk in this video is that James Gunn is not directing the movie. Because that was the bulk of her complaint. That was it. That was the biggest one. And then the thing about him bullying somebody or whatever, like, I don't even know what that has to do with anything really. But those two things were really the only things that I could discuss because her entire argument was predicated on a lie. And she's not really talked about the trailer. She started out talking about crypto and the P filter, and then we just never went back to it. She talked about the marketing. We never went back to the trailer. All right.
Summer movies next year. It's like, this is not going to do much, guys. I think it'll do Black Adam numbers at best, but like having a dog peeing be your big hook for your film in a landscape
you are just stuck on the water sports stuff. You're just stuck on it. It's like you've glitched out or something. You glitched out. Talk about something else in the fucking trailer. There's lots of other things to discuss in the trailer. Story beats, character introductions, fight scenes, VFX, I will take anything else than talking about crypto peeing again. Anything.
Already have so many cynical projects and we barely remember what the superhero is. Like, it doesn't entice me, and the rest of it just looks like more P filter and grunge, and it just is not interesting to me. So I think that this is just going to wind up being overlooked by audiences. If Superman couldn't get to 700 million, I think this would be lucky to be a 300 million movie. I just don't.
Does it have to get Superman numbers? Is that the bar? Why is that the bar? Do you even know the budget of Supergirl? Do we even have a budget? I just double checked. Apparently, at some point there was like a $200 million price tag attached to it, but James Gunn debunked that. He's like, it's not even close to that. So I'm going to assume it's probably around the 150 range, maybe 130 to 150 on the high end, maybe 170. I'm going to assume that's where it's at. It can't be that expensive, to be quite honest. It can't be. If it were to get it to 200 million, I would be shocked if this movie was 200 million. I would be shocked, honestly. But there's no official numbers. And here's the thing. There's never really official numbers. It's all speculation. So what are you basing this on? What is the baseline that you're basing what number it has to reach on, other than what Superman made? Which isn't a baseline, because it would be based on whatever we think the budget is, which it is not 200 million. Let's go on.
I think anyone is going to watch this. And I don't think, like, I'm thinking that there's, like, apart from Batman that always looks good, you know, the Scarlett Johansson casting, which might potentially be Phantasm, that sounds great. I just am kind of losing hope for these DC characters, because, like, what next after James Gunn? Are they going to be farmed as Netflix IP? It's just getting exhausted to hang on to these characters when they're always so consistently done badly, and that's why I think a lot of people have just let go of them. But
so stop talking about it. Turn it off. Like, again, I'm going to keep saying that. Turn it off. If you are exhausted from this, why are you still talking about it? That whole argument that nobody wants to see it, nobody cares about it, the argument crumbles when you are building a channel talking about it. That doesn't make sense up here.
Yeah, those are my thoughts on the Supergirl trailer. I hate it. I hate that Supergirl is...
You gave no thoughts on it. This was a dumbass video. A dumbass video from a dumb content creator. You spent the vast majority of this video creating verbal masturbation around James Gunn being a hack. That's what you did. You falsely accused him of shadow directing and writing Supergirl, even though you have no proof of it. Like, there's no proof of this whatsoever. You did that. You tried to say he bullied a writer off of a project where he was already hired onto the project to do exactly what he did. And that he stole it, and that he's been remaking the same movie over and over again, ignoring other movies that he's made, other projects he's made, and not even correctly correlating anything to the first Guardians of the Galaxy from the DC stuff. It's just like, oh, look, it's a team of characters. Oh, look, there's pop music. These are the same things. Like, it's the dumbest, again, most juvenile and immature way to review anything. And you barely talked about the Supergirl trailer. You barely talked about it.